Okay, so we're in week 4, and I think my slide says week 3, doesn't it? Or week 2. Wow. Um, but this is week 4, not to be fooled. And so things are starting to wind down, and the mood board projects. I actually do have the feedback on the last part of your mood board project, which is the typography section. You may notice that I've added an assignment for this week. It is called the Mood Board Final Draft. And this is a way of wrapping things up because really my outlook on grading is that it shouldn't just be a one-time judgment and then you move on. It should be a learning experience. So I've added this assignment so that you can have a chance to see my feedback, make any adjustments to your mood boards, and resubmit them and earn back some of the points that may have been deducted in the past if that was the case. So take a look at all of the versions of your mood board and make sure that it is all in order, and then submit it for this week's activity. The activity itself doesn't have a grade associated with it because it will impact your previous grades. So, and if by chance, I don't know if this applies to anyone, but if you've gotten straight 100s, you don't have to resubmit if you don't choose not to. And other than that, we have the standard reflection video. I don't have a peer review, which you might have been used to by now because we don't have a way of really sharing our work this month, but we do have your peer review video, which is associated with the professionalism, and then a course evaluation. Are there any questions or any comments or concerns before I proceed? Okay, so in week 4, of course, we don't have any new material introduced, so it's more dedicated to reflection and synthesis of the material that we've covered. So what I thought we could do is take a minute to look at this ad that you guys are well familiar with by now. This is the Denver Ad Club's You Cannot Hide It ad. And this I've been using as my example for a variety of reasons. It has a lot of different factors involved since it's, for one thing, an advertisement, but it's done in the style of a movie poster and has some typographical elements as well. It kind of has a little bit of everything, so it served my purpose well. There have been sort of really kind of two threads going through the course, and I'm realizing that I need to really differentiate this better, and that is one element that deals with branding, and then the other that is in more of a general context of media design. So when you've been analyzing this ad, it's really been from that more general application of color theory, of visual storytelling, and visual hierarchy and typography as it applies to visual media of all kind. And then with the mood board, it's been more directed towards branding. But the principles themselves ultimately apply the same. They're fairly universal. So if you're talking about color theory, those color relationships are going to be the same, like I showed on the slides back in week 2, whether you're working with a movie poster or an actual scene in a movie or fashion design or what have you, or a logo. So we had this particular poster that really made use of these complementary colors, the orange above the stairs and the blues below with some green over here. Really this orange and blue contrast was the strength of the color relationships, at least, because by having the warm color paired with the blue, it emphasized the effects of both, really. I don't think emphasized was the word I was going for there. It really kind of increased or enhanced the impact of both colors, making the shadows seem a little deeper and helping that warm light be a little more striking, which in effect allowed us to highlight the shadow, thus giving it more visual dominance, and also the spotlight put on the character down here that made him more prominent. And so from a visual hierarchy standpoint, those two elements stand out. Somebody in the class, I can't remember who it was, if it was you, Judah, on the analysis mentioned that they had looked at the thumbnail image of the ad, and that allowed you to see what stood out more because all the fine details were then eliminated. And I think that was a clever way of doing it. And in terms of visual hierarchy, that really helps to see what stands out, and that's probably what are going to be your dominant elements. Did you guys have any comments, anything in particular that you had on this ad and the analyses that we did? And Randy said he's sticking with the dislike for the typeface for the tagline. And I recall you did not care for the beveling effect that's on there. And yeah, I generally tend to agree. That's a bit of a cliche in terms of graphic design. And I think overall that the typeface for the "You Cannot Hide It" is meant to just be sort of a big, strong statement, kind of meant to go along with the very kind of ominous or threatening tone. You cannot hide it. This person is obviously coming to get them. So another example, and this is more from the branding standpoint, that I actually came across today that has all the elements that we looked at as well, was this particular Burger King ad. This was on We Love Ad, and what you see is, notice the use of colors. There's the brand colors, orange, red, and not really no presence of the blue, but the orange and red are really the recognizable or iconic Burger King colors. Also notice the typeface that's used here. And while it's not a strong visual story, there is a little bit of a story going on there with the increasing size of the burgers. And of course, pull ahead, which is the action of going through the drive-through. But comparing that to the various elements of their brand, this is actually a website, and you see it's the exact same typeface. And the logo is kind of omnipresent there, but the packaging in particular, like this ad is taken directly from the packaging. Even the little tables that they use to lay out information is represented, and the boxes around the imagery and everything. So it's that consistent look that's easily recognizable. That really is what goes into establishing a brand identity. Of course, Burger King is a pretty iconic example. I know most of your subjects are pretty different from Burger King, like with Judah's Hero Graveyard, Transmedia Story, and Randy and the calls that you're featuring. But the idea is that if you keep this consistent color scheme, the consistent typography and design style, then it becomes almost second nature. Once it becomes recognizable, you don't even have to have the logo on there in order for that to be instantly recognized. And this personal branding theme is something that's going to continue through many of the classes in the program. So the details that you did come up with for your mood board, you will see again, because that those factors that you've decided on, like your brand colors and typography, you'll have a chance to apply those in developing your own brand media once you get to, say, the video and audio course, and especially the graphic design course, as well as the web design courses, so that these branding factors can then be put into action at that point. And likely as well in the portfolio project courses. And yeah, Randy, that's the courses are intended to build on each other, especially as some of you have heard, we're going through a big redesign right now. So there's really a concerted effort to make sure that all the courses are interconnected, so that it's a unified experience. Are there any questions on any of that what I've just covered with talking about how the color theory and typography applies, both in branding as well as in general media design? So we had talked previously about how especially color theory would play a role in cinematography, with the example of the matrix with color coding indicating different moods. But regardless of what kind of medium you're working with, it would work the same way. So that really kind of segues into the mood board project itself. And this is something that, again, this was a whole new course curriculum, so I'm seeing some areas where the instructions can be tightened up and clarified. So I think there was a little bit of miscommunication whether this was you were developing a style for a specific advertisement design, or if it was for a brand in general. And honestly, it works fine either way, because a mood board is a brainstorming tool for any kind of design project. So whichever way you went with it would work. My intent was for it to be more of a more general branding exercise. So you were kind of establishing a rough draft of your brand style guide, basically. And this is the kind of generic mood board I had shown in week 1, but all the factors are here. So what you would have done at this point is picked an overall visual style with images that represent some aspect of that visual style. A lot of these will represent examples that you felt were relevant to the visual direction that you wanted to go in, maybe past designs by other designers that you found inspiration in, or just design features that you liked, that you might like to emulate, or triggered some thought in some way. Yeah, this has definitely got a 50s feel, and I'm trying to think of that artist that did all the opening credit art for the Hitchcock films, but it's not coming to me. This reminds me a lot of his work. And it allows you to brainstorm typography as well, and color schemes. So, and I want to make sure that everybody understood, and I think it's probably clear, but the colors that you picked in your mood board are colors that would then go into your brand media design. So think about the Burger King examples that I showed earlier. Let me just back up. Had they provided a mood board, you would likely see these colors, the orange or the gold orange, the red, and the blue included on there, along with all the color codes, just to be highly specific. And then those same colors could be then drawn from in developing all the various packaging, as well as the website, which we don't really see that reflected in this particular website very well, but other than the logos. So that's what you have done. So this is something you can keep, and I encourage you to hang on to this, the mood board you've developed, and refer to it as you move ahead. In fact, I believe you will be using this mood board directly in your Portfolio Project 1 course coming up. Are there any thoughts or questions? Okay. And Randy, I wanted to, I don't want to put you on the spot, but earlier we talked and you had said that your mood board had kind of made you rethink some things in the creative direction that you had been working with already. So I guess your project was something you had already been working on. And I don't know if you'd want to share that. I thought it might be something that the class could benefit from, just hearing how that applied and how that the exercise kind of helped you come up with some creative ideas. Okay, and so it was mainly in terms of your typeface then, keeping a consistent typeface across your personal brand. And just since the archive doesn't capture the text chat, just to read this, it says, after I left the Navy, I began rebranding myself. I gravitated towards Gotham only, and that's the Gotham typeface, but started rethinking that and introducing serifs. That you love sans serifs. Okay, so it would be sort of more of the gravitating more towards the more maybe modern or very clean line looks of the sans serif fonts. Okay, so it's more suited to the feel that you have in mind for your brand. Okay, so by carrying out the kind of the brainstorming on the mood board, it lets you crystallize some of those ideas a little better. Okay, great, and that's really what it's really for. It is, it is a brainstorming exercise. Out in the industry, a mood board would be shared. So, right now you're your own client as well as your own project manager. But out in the workplace, you would have external clients. You would have possibly a project manager that you're working with, team members that you're working with. So the mood board would allow you to then share that with them and pitch an idea to your client. Because you'll hear clients say, well, I'll know what I like when I see it, but you can't just start coming up with ideas. That's, the time is money, right? So if you're not heading in the right direction, then you're wasting time and effort. If you have a mood board that you're coming up with ideas, you can show it to your clients and have them give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, or give their input so you can adjust your direction. So it's sort of iterative. You go back and forth. And but in this case, it was a back and forth with me as your instructor giving feedback, but also with yourself. So you can tweak the design ideas as you went along, as it seems was the case with you. So then once it all is settled upon, once you know your colors, the typefaces that you want to use, and even an idea of the visual direction you want to go in with the imagery, then you can start putting it into production. You'd say this is the right direction and green light the actual media production, because that's where all the time and effort goes, is into the actual development. But you don't want to start that until you have a clear image of where you're headed. So I know from when we talked earlier, Randy, you said this was leading up to something, but we didn't put it into effect. You didn't actually create an ad design. So that's the next step. And I'm kind of leaving that to your future courses to take that step. So you have the actual media design focus courses like the video and web design and graphic design courses that then this can be taken into. Great, yeah, and just to read your comment, he said, now that you know it's about our brand, it makes makes it even more useful, really. Good, and that's my hope. And that's where it will be used in the program. But again, I want you to keep these ideas in mind and think of them in very general terms. When you're producing your graphic designs or your video productions or what have you, keep the ideas of color theory in mind and color psychology. Plan out your shots and how you might cue your audience to different moods and different levels of energy based on that. Also start to develop a critical eye as you're going through your day. When you encounter different media designs, look at it and really ask yourself, why they made those design choices. Why were these colors used? And why is certain things emphasized over others, like we did with the book covers? Why would the author's name be more emphasized in some cases while the title is emphasized in others? All that is done very deliberately and for a purpose, and that is true in TV commercials and billboards and movie posters, etc. So this is going to be a shorter class tonight because I'm not introducing anything new, but I wanted to give an opportunity for any kind of questions or feedback or anything that I could clarify for you. Well, thank you. Is there anything I can clarify before we wrap up? No problem. And I appreciate you guys' your regular attendance this month and all of your hard work.